What's up and welcome in. You found yourself locked on Bulls. I'm Matt. That's Big Dave. It's October 21st, Thursday, following the Bulls opening season game, a victory over the Pistons. We're breaking that game down on a fresh episode of Locked On Bulls right now. Let's go.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Here are your hosts, Matt Peck and Big Dave Watson.
What's up? Welcome into Locked On Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Matt Peck. You can follow me on Twitter at Bulls_Peck. You can follow my co-host, Big Dave Watson, at BAWL Sports. You can follow us at Locked On Bulls. Shoot us a text or leave us a voicemail at 331-979-1369 for our weekly mailbag episodes. Today's episode of Locked On Bulls is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving community since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to our friends at McDonald's for always being there. I'm loving it. You know what else I'm loving, Big Dave? The Bulls are a 1-0 NBA team for the first time in 5 years. Woo!
Fifth. Do you know how sad I was when I heard that stat? I said, wow, they haven't won a season over in 5 years, but it makes sense. We know what we were watching in the past, Matt.
It really does. And I think we'll talk about everything we saw on both ends of the floor last night. This was not a pretty game. This was not the bum slaying that I think maybe you, myself, and our listeners, Bulls fans everywhere, were hoping for last night, knowing that, the Pistons were without Cade Cunningham. They were one of the few teams last season that the Bulls could actually beat and confidently say they were better than. And with all of our new, added talent to this roster, I think we all expected the Bulls to handle this game without too much trouble. But you have a 14-point first quarter because there's a lid on the basket, and you're a little sloppy with the basketball. I think the Bulls at one point, early second quarter, had 9 turnovers and 9 made field goals. It was not a pretty game, but their defensive effort in the first half kept them in it. Zach LaVine in the third quarter said, all right, y'all, get on my back. It won't be this every night, but get on my back tonight, and led them to a victory.
It was beautiful, Matt. I enjoyed it so much. Of course, I enjoyed it because we won, but I enjoyed it because sometimes, Matt, you can predict the tempo of a game, especially when you're watching a good team against a bad team. You can kind of predict the tempo of the game and how it's going to go. The Bulls came out looking like a team who, were trying to figure it out. The other thing I kept forgetting is the Bulls didn't really play a lot of road games in the preseason. I believe they played 1, and that was in Cleveland. Right. So they didn't play. 3 out of 4 were at home. So they're used to being at home. So I expected some jitters, you know what I'm saying? Some let's figure it out kind of thing. And you saw that in the first quarter. Watching in the first quarter and the second quarter, nothing about it said the Bulls will lose this game. It just said the Bulls aren't hitting shots. That's all I got from it. Because it wasn't like the Pistons were out here, like world beating. They were hitting shots. I'm like, you're out of your mind if you think the Pistons are going to continue hitting shots like that throughout the season. Like they just looked amazing shots. You know what I mean? Like, come on, stop it. This isn't going to continue. And it didn't continue that much in the second half, even though they kept it close. And let me give them credit because they kept it close and they battled and they definitely fought and they were definitely tough and they definitely didn't give in at all. Every time Bulls went up and I was like, oh, okay, cool. We got that 2-point lead. We're good. They'll come back down and hit a 3, and they played really, really good. And yeah, that should be something to watch for this upcoming season. But the Bulls were the better team with the biggest star. And that biggest star, Matt, was Zach LaVine.
I mean, we talked a lot this offseason about Zach maybe having stats come down a little bit this season because you add in DeMar, because you're going to have a full season building chemistry with Vooch, a guy who can clearly, on any given night be a 1A option on offense. And so Zach's, usage percentage and maybe points per game and all that kind of stuff might come down a little bit, maybe shot. but hopefully efficiency stays where it was last season or even increases a little bit. 11 of 17 from the field last night for Zach. But I think the biggest key for Zach's game last night, and it included some big ones late in this game to secure the W for the Bulls, 11 of 11 at the free throw line. Look, we talked a lot about how DeMar DeRozan's arrival could increase the Bulls' competency on the offensive end, and just like a safety net on the offensive end, DeMar DeRozan's ability to draw fouls and get to the free throw line. He only did that once last night. He actually missed both of his free throws. I think that's not a concern. That was just a weird night for DeMar. But if Zach LaVine is finally going to start getting some respect from NBA refs, because the refs certainly seemed to be on Detroit's side last night when it came to most of the calls. Goodness. But what they did do was anytime Zach drew contact, whether he was going up for a shot or on transition on a break, he even got a clear path foul called in his favor last night. Zach LaVine finally has arrived. And if Zach LaVine, in addition to his efficiency as an off-ball threat, can get to the line 8 to 12 times a night, I mean, that's just free points for the Bulls every single night.
Yeah, sky was the limit with Zach if that's the case, Matt. And it should be the case because of how he drives to the bucket and doesn't shy away from contact. Like, he welcomes it. He's bringing it on. But it's so hard to stop because he can only do that. And then that step back three, Matt. And they talked about it. Adam Amin and Stacey talked about it a lot during the broadcast, like how many step back threes he takes. He and Kobe White, how many they take throughout the season. And we saw how pretty it was. I believe he only hit one, but my guy was
1 of 5 last night.
Yeah, it was so pretty and so timely when he hit that shot. He was just everything you want your star or even superstar to be. He was great on both ends of the floor. It wasn't forced. We are so used to watching Zach force things, try to make it happen because he has to. There was none of it. It was so smooth and so cool. The biggest compliment I can give to the new regime about Zach LaVine's play is he did not look gassed or look like he was trying to take a rest or trying to take a break on either end of the floor. He was engaged, Matt, the entire time, especially on the defensive end when he's fighting through those screens, getting up on that defender, trying to guide him towards the baseline or guide him to the middle of the floor so they could be double teamed. Like, he was active. When he hit that miracle shot over his head and got the and one, when he went and high-fived his teammates, Matt, the way he talked to them, though, when he high-fived them, like, I got it. That's all he was saying to them. I got it. Don't even worry about it. I got it. We got it. We good. Don't even trip. That's the confidence that you want your star to instill in your team. And he did an amazing job of doing that. And one last thing I saw about him, Matt, that was also impressive, the block he had. that three-point shot. When he got that block, my goodness, Matthew Peck, what an amazing block on a three-point shot. And I mean, he was a great block. And I mean, after he blocked it, he fought for the ball. Like, it wasn't a block and then, you get it. No, he fought for that basketball to give his team that extra possession, man. Zach LaVine was everything that the Bulls want in a star player. And hopefully we get to see that every single game from here on out.
Yeah, I also loved that block. One of the great examples of the Bulls defense last night doing a good enough job, like I said, to keep them in the game while their offense was really struggling, missing open looks all over the place. Because, like, yes, the Pistons were getting looks in the paint early and often last night. The final points in the paint actually only ended up being a slight margin for Detroit, I believe 50-46 when all was said and done. But the perimeter defense of the Bulls that we've talked about, the point of attack defense that we've talked about improving. We talked about controlling the Pistons behind the three-point line in our episode yesterday. Pistons last night, just 6 of 28 from behind the three-point line for 21.5%. The fact that the Bulls defense was able to limit that part of Detroit's offense on a night when their own offense was struggling kept this a winnable game for the Bulls. That Zach block in particular was incredible, but they put pressure on Detroit shooters all night and did not give them, other than a couple of instances that I can recall where they had a blown rotation or somebody forgot to there were a couple of wide open threes for Detroit, but like the fact that I can only remember 2 or 3 of them means that the Bulls did a pretty good job with their perimeter defense last night. we've got to talk
Yeah.
about the bench production last night, or lack thereof, Dave. We didn't really talk about that on Outcast last night. I'm curious what you think about that. Before we do that, though, would you like to give a shout out to our newest sponsor here on Locked On Bulls? Those delicious folks making burgers and fries and everything else over at Mickey D's.
Look here, man. Look, if you are a human being, I don't care where you live in the world, if you are a human being, you go to McDonald's. You have been to McDonald's. You have enjoyed McDonald's. Because not only is it the food, it is actually the experience of going in. I remember so many times, Matt, when I was young and as a child, as a kid, when at daycare or at school or kindergarten or something, when we would all gather together and go down the street to the McDonald's. The teachers would take us down there and they would buy us the cheeseburgers and the hamburgers. They come out with them, on the trays and everything, set it out in front of the kids. And we would be playing on the slides. We would be just having the time of our lives on the Ronald McDonald statue, just having an absolute ball. It is a staple. McDonald's is an actual staple in a lot of people's lives, including mine. And not just because it was a cool place to go, because like I mentioned, that food is tasty. Amazing stuff, man. After Little League games, birthday parties, man, now you can go there when your Wi-Fi, is down and you need to get some work done. You always hit McDonald's. It's got everything you need, from the food to the community to the service. They got you covered. So go on down to McDonald's, y'all, refuel and reconnect, and go ahead and enjoy a Big Mac on me. I promise you. Say my name. They'll still charge you, but say my name, and then you can have a Big Mac, y'all. Have it. Enjoy it, because it's Mickey D's. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Enjoy it.
That's one of my favorite Jim Gaffigan stand-up jokes when he's talking about how much he loves McDonald's is, has your mother ever cooked anything as delicious as a McDonald's French fry? Because the answer is no. No. They're the most delicious things on the planet.
Man,
oh my gosh.
Fries. My goodness. So many wonderful days at McDonald's.
I want some right now. Like my mouth is watering like Pavlov's dog. You're talking about McDonald's and I'm like, oh my God, I want some McDonald's French fries right now.
That's how it works.
All right. So we know that Vooch and DeRozan both had off nights as far as shooting the ball. That's okay. Zach talked about it after the game, was like, whatever. Tonight, I handled the load. I'm still happy and confident knowing that there will be plenty of nights where I'm having an off night shooting and one of them is going to take the reins. Let's now shift to maybe the bigger concern from the Bulls as far as an offensive production standpoint last night, Big Dave, despite the victory. And that was a bench that gave you next to nothing. 10 points from the Bulls second unit, 7 points from the rook Ayo Dosunmu, and just one made three for 3 points for Alex Caruso. Now, we know and love already everything that is Alex Caruso. 27 minutes leading the team in bench minutes, closed the game, which I think a lot of us knew Donovan would certainly explore that option and will continue to do so in close games late this season, because his defense is just that important. But when it comes to a lack of scoring from this second unit, what are your primary concerns right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say the 3-point shooting is a primary concern. Because you don't have it, nobody that you're just truly dependent on that can get that shot. You know what I mean? That can just handle that. That's a concern. Even when Ayo hit his three, it was more like, yay! It wasn't like a confident, like, oh, this is going in. Like it was like, ooh, yay! Like that. So Caruso, he's definitely a solid 3-point shooter for sure, but you're gonna need more than that one. You know what I'm saying? So if he's that one, then that means I'm going to need somebody who's breaking down the defense. A la Kobe White. Hello. He's going to be important, guys. He's going to be important. The other thing that concerned me, Matt, was on the offensive end, it seemed like they didn't have an identity about what they knew what to do and how to do it. And what I meant by that is there were players I would watch Alizé Johnson get the ball and he's trying to cross people over and go to the bucket. And I'm like, wait, what? No, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
know your role. Know your role, Alizé Johnson. Go crash the boards. Don't try and get ISO buckets.
Right. It was. I hear your guy Kendrick Perkins talk about that. Like, I got handles, but they never let me handle the ball. And Rich Jefferson be like, yeah, there's a reason. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's great you contribute. That's awesome, but we don't need you to do that, and that shouldn't be part of the game, and especially yesterday's game. But he was trying to make something happen, which I don't fault him for. But it was like, I don't want to see that all the time. So we got to find somebody who can actually settle stuff down and get those guys a bucket. I have no issues with what they did on the defensive end. They were awesome on the defensive end, and the pressure they put on everyone. Alex Caruso with the floor burns all the time. It was great. But on the offensive end, Matt, 10 points. I believe 32-10 was the final tally as far as bench points from the Pistons to the Bulls. Yep. And it came from two people. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was two people out there. So we want to see more from guys like Javonte Green. We want to see him, coming to his own step on into there. And maybe we see Matt Thomas get a shot at this too, Matt, because of his 3-point shooting and what he brings that way. So a lot of questions on the bench, but I'd like the fact that most of the questions really have to do from scoring, and they did a good job trying to stop and succeeding in stopping the other team from scoring.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all were somewhat concerned about a lack of shooting in this second unit, especially as you mentioned, until Kobe White comes back. And dear Kobe White, please, please, please come back as soon as you can, because boy, could they have used his scoring punch off the bench last night. Just a guy who can, get to the rim, maybe break guys down off the dribble a little bit, and then certainly if Caruso or somebody else is in there along with Kobe in that second unit, or maybe DeMar is playing in that second unit, ball handling, that is an automatic catch and shoot weapon in Kobe White, which they legitimately just did not have last night in the second unit. No. That is a concern. And I was thinking about this because Dave, you and I talked about this earlier on, I think, training camp, preseason, as far as how Billy Donovan's going to stagger his starters. And last night we saw him go the same route that we did for the most part in preseason, which was keeping Zach and Vooch and that duo together on the floor longer into the first quarter, subbing out DeMar and Lonzo, and then staggering them into the second unit. And I said this to you, Dave, staggering DeMar with the second unit was a bit of a concern for me because unlike Lonzo and unlike Zach and even Vooch, you got a second unit with not a whole lot of shooting in it right now. And then you got DeMar, who also, when it comes to floor spacing and perimeter shooting, is not a threat. Although, I believe we saw DeMar hit another 3 last night, right?
So, he did. Hit a big one.
But anytime he hits one in preseason or last night, we're like, oh my God.
Right.
So
no. Yeah.
I am concerned about that right now, as far as the way that Billy is staggering DeMar with that second unit, because there's just not enough shooting in that second unit right now. What say you to that concern?
That's a fair concern. I think I counter that slightly with when I think about the Spurs, and I looked at these numbers when DeMar DeRozan was on the floor with those guys. And I'm talking about Lonnie Walker and Johnson and Patty Mills. All of their 3-point percentages went up. All of them. Patty Mills went to about 40%. He was shooting about 36 or 38. Lonnie Walker, just not a great 3-point shooter, but his percentage definitely went up. His percentage definitely went up. There was another player, I can't remember his name right now, but everybody's percentage went up when DeMar DeRozan was on the floor and being the one facilitating and being the one, handling the basketball. But at the same time, they kind of played that kind of style. You know what I'm saying, Matt? Like, you kind of got him the ball, and then you can spread out, around him, and kind of go camp out and post up at the 3-point line, because Patty Mills is going to shoot that ball, and Lonnie Walker, he's going to shoot. Like, these guys are going to shoot the basketball like that. But Alizé Johnson is not going to be, camping out, around the 3-point line. That's not going to be the case. Ayo is not going to be camping out around the 3-point line. That's just not going to be the case. So I think they can get it together and figure it out, because I like how DeMar said in the press conference, man, after the game, that they're used to the second unit kicking their butts. And it was good to see them kick somebody else's, but because they're always kicking ours. So that, again, that goes to the defense. But as far as the offense is concerned, I don't think he's gotten enough time with that to figure out where everybody likes it and where they need to be and stuff like that. And I think it showed more because he was off as far as his shooting was concerned and how he was scoring. And he wasn't getting to the foul line. That's the other big part of that. So he couldn't slow things down like I always thought he would. Like he would get that. He would get fouled, hit 2 free throws, slow things down. And then that defense will clamp on you. Then we can get the ball and we can run. So I expect to see more of that when those fouls start getting called like they're supposed to be. And then we can settle some stuff down. And then maybe that 3-point shooting will come. But it is a valid concern. And it just shows you how much we're going to need Kobe White out there, man. He's going to be needed for sure.
Final thoughts on the second unit, and then I want to shift back to the starters and talk about the nights that the two youngsters of the starting five, Lonzo and Patrick Williams, had. But we talked about this a little bit last night, Dave. Troy Brown Jr., questionable to play, comes in 4 minutes, 3 quick fouls. Donovan gives him the plug, and probably to the surprise of most Bulls fans, Ayo Dosunmu gets some run in his NBA season debut. Ayo played 11 minutes off the bench, had that awesome quick succession of back-to-back layups when the Bulls went from down 2 to up 2 to pivotal moment in the second half. And also, as you said, knocked down a big 3. Interesting DNPs from Billy Donovan. I think based on what Javonte and Alize Johnson showed in the preseason, it wasn't a huge surprise to me that both of those guys got run over the likes of Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony Bradley. I think maybe some Bulls fans expected to see one or either of those guys in there, but I have no issue with that when it came to Billy Donovan's rotation. And also kudos to Billy for throwing Ayo in there, because I think Ayo showed us some cool stuff in the preseason, certainly showed us that he is not afraid to take this next step and play at the NBA level. I think he's already earned a fair amount of respect from his veteran teammates for the way that he has approached his rookie season, asking everybody a bunch of questions, working as hard as he has been in training camp. And he made the most of probably a surprise opportunity last night.
Absolutely right, man. You hit that on the head. Because, again, in that press conference, Zach and DeMar were raving about Ayo and how much they like him and how they really haven't been around a young player that's as calm as he is. And nothing gets too high, nothing gets too low. Because I mentioned it when we talked about it on the show yesterday when we were doing Bulls Outcast, how he just didn't look sporadic. You know what I mean? You were expecting certain rookie things to happen to him that didn't really happen. I didn't see him out of position. You know what I mean? I didn't see him dribble the ball off his foot. I did see him turn it over because he was trying to make a play, because he was running before he got the ball. That's stuff that in football that happens. You know what I mean? Like guys making a move before the ball is in their hands. He was making the move before the ball is in his hands. The layup that got blocked. You got to go up stronger than that, as Stacey King told him, bro. Like, this ain't the Big Ten, brother. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's a little different here. Everybody's an athlete out here. And shout out Josh Jackson. That's the guy Matt Peck was pointing out on the last show about somebody who could be doing that thing. And he definitely did his thing in the game. So absolutely. But Ayo was so impressive though, Matt, because it didn't rattle him. Those things didn't rattle him. It didn't, where I felt it would. It didn't. That sequence when he got the layup, the steal, and then the layup again, and then that 3-point shot he hit, Matt. I mean, and they were all necessary and huge points, and they came within the flow of the game. And he left them in the fourth quarter. What that is going to pay dividends for this kid and his kind of trust, and as far as, how he feels about his game and his confidence and stuff like that. It's going to pay dividends, man. When coach believes in you in your first game ever, and he's got you on the road, like get in the game and you produce, beautiful, man. So we're going to see more of him. He played himself into minutes the same way Javonte Green did. He has definitely played himself into minutes.
All right, we're going to talk about Lonzo and Patrick Williams and the nights they had in just a minute. First, though, if you find yourself a little wired after that Bulls game last night, after all the waiting, finally we get there. The Bulls win their season debut for the first time in 5 years. You're bouncing off the walls. You can't sleep. Well, we've got something for you, and it's called Calm. When it comes to athletes, we tend to focus on physical fitness, but there's another side to the game that's just as important: mental fitness. Calm, the #1 app for sleep and meditation, has teamed up with LeBron James to help you train your mind and become the champion version of yourself. LeBron and Calm know that your mind is like any other muscle in your body, but you don't have to be a world champion to learn how to train it. Calm can help you train your brain so you sleep better, reduce your stress, and perform at your best. For LeBron, sleep is a critical part of his mental fitness routine. He says this, quote, "Getting good sleep and finding time to rest is one of the most valuable things I can do for my body and mind. From the sound of rain falling on leaves to bedtime sleep stories, Calm puts me to sleep within minutes, which means I wake up ready for any challenge." So if you head to calm.com/lockedonnba for a limited time, you'll get 40% off of a Calm premium subscription. With Calm, you have access to the nature scenes LeBron loves, like rain on leaves, and so much more, like sleep stories and meditations, so you can be ready for any challenges that life throws your way. Again, for a limited time, our listeners can join LeBron in using Calm and get a 40% discount on a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/lockedonnba. Unlock content to help you focus, ease stress, and sleep better. Get started at calm.com/lockedonnba. That's calm.com/lockedonnba.
Oh, I feel more chill already. If that can be a thing. But let me tell you what, I wasn't yesterday because I was watching that Bulls game. Oh, that sweatiness was going down, baby. But you know what? I wasn't worried and I wasn't concerned. Why? Because I had dabbed up with that wonderful thing that they call Sweat Block. It is my offensive line stopping me from being offensive to people who got to hug me and touch me and they feel all that sweat. That's done with, baby. All right. Because it's got a dry shirt guarantee. All right. And if they don't keep you dry, guess what? They will give you your money back. Works up to 7 days per use, guys. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's doctor created, it's doctor recommended. And because somebody definitely asked me this in the YouTube comments, I remember you asking me this. It's not just for armpits, chest, back, feet, hands, anywhere you want to use it. And look at me. I mean, anywhere you want to use it.
We're talking about, guys.
Right.
You know that area we're talking about.
How's about your father? Little. Yeah, it works. All right. Do your thing and use it, man. So go to their website and use the promo code Locked On to receive 20% off of your purchase. Go to sweatblock.com, or you can go to Amazon, or you can go to CVS and get that same wonderful deal just using that promo code Locked On. Sweat Block anywhere.
Anywhere.
I mean, that.
Who put a question mark in the teleprompter again? All right. So, two players who Bulls fans have great expectations for this season: Lonzo Ball and second-year player Patrick Williams. Lonzo, fresh start, young kid with huge upside in front of him. And, of course, Patrick Williams, Bulls fans hoping that he builds off of his rookie year, not only by being a quality defensive piece, but maybe expanding his offense this season a little bit too. Last night, maybe we saw the first example of it being hard for Patrick Williams to come by greater offensive opportunities this season because he's playing in a starting unit with plenty of other legitimate scoring weapons. P-Dub last night in 28 minutes, just 6 points on 3 shots. I did like a lot of what we saw from Patrick on the defensive end. He got burned a couple of times by Jeremy Grant. He also had some possessions where he locked down Jeremy Grant very impressively.
Yeah.
Big Dave, I know it's just one game, but what was your thought watching Patrick last night and the underwhelming presence he had on the offensive end?
My thought was he's not ready yet. And what I mean by that is he's not ready because I don't think the ankle is ready yet. And he hasn't had that time to play in preseason. So he hasn't rounded into form. I don't mean that he's not ready to play basketball in the NBA or with the starting lineup. But he's still, I think he's still kind of dealing with that, just getting that part together. and the rest of that stuff will come. Again, man, we mentioned this in the previous shows. The thing that's about Patrick Williams is, one, we're not asking him to be that dude. You know, he's your fourth or fifth option, but we are asking you to guard the best player on the other team. And that's exactly what he was doing. Like you said, there were moments he was locking down Jeremy Grant. There was moments Jeremy Grant was giving him buckets. Why? Because it's Jeremy Grant. I mean, do you remember him scoring 40 on us? Because I do. Like the dude can play. Like, he is not no kind of punk. He is serious business out there. So I'm not concerned. It just, when I saw it, I was like, yeah, he's not ready yet. Not yet. You know, I still give him a couple games to work his way back to those things. Even on the alley-oop, Matt, what that Lonzo Ball threw from half court, mind you. Even on that alley-oop that he threw, you saw Patrick kind of bobble it when it got there. But, you know, since he's just so talented and skilled, he was able to control it a little bit and lay it in. But you know what was great about it? Was I knew it wasn't Lonzo's fault, because I knew who was throwing him the ball. I was like, nope, the pass was perfect. I'm pretty sure the pass was perfect.
And like, you watched the replay, the pass was perfect. Like, right in the exact spot it needed to be.
Yeah, so it removes that doubt. Like, having Lonzo removes that doubt. I'm like, no, that's on Patrick right there, because I know that was in your hand. I knew it. I knew it was in his hand. So seeing him do that and just how he was moving and things like that, I'm like, yeah, he's getting his wind. You know, he'll be fine, is what I'm saying. He's just getting reacclimated, and it's going to take him a couple of games to do that. Hopefully it comes quicker than that. And luckily we're playing not great teams yet, but we will be soon. So hopefully it clicks in for him around that time, man.
Yeah. And because you mentioned that connection between him and Lonzo on that transition bucket, which was great fun to watch. That, other than that, and then there was one other amazing outlet pass that Lonzo had. I want to say it was in the third quarter when the Bulls were kind of making their way back in. It was a great outlet pass, I believe, out to Zach, who then got to the bucket and drew some fouls. Other than that, we did not see a whole lot of Lonzo-oriented offensive sets last night. We saw some of them in preseason, but I think nobody ever really has believed, or at least I don't believe, and I don't think you do, that Lonzo is like a Chris Paul kind of point guard who is going to just like run the offense in the half court every time up the floor. He is just a utility belt piece. And the fact that we saw in preseason, the Bulls between Lonzo, Vooch, Zach, DeMar have all of these different screening and pick and roll opportunities, and the ball moves and guys move off the ball. And Lonzo is an integral piece of that. But he did not seem to be, for large stretches of last night, at least the way I saw it, Dave, very engaged on the offensive end. He had 4 turnovers, I believe 5 of 12 from the field. We love what he's doing on the defensive end. And Lonzo was, creating havoc and creating turnovers on the defensive end, clamping people down. Are you at all concerned about what you saw from Lonzo last night when it comes to how this Bulls offense is going to operate with him as their starting point guard?
No, I wasn't concerned. What I saw a lot of, and I hope he gets out of this, which was probably my only concern, was the overpassing that he was doing. I knew he was going to pass. Like, he would get to the bucket, Matt, and I'll be like, oh, that's a shot. And then he's passing the ball, behind him to someone. And then would be a turnover. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So that gave me concern, because I've seen him do that kind of, his whole career. Like, he would get there, he would penetrate, and all you got to do is go up and finish. And then he didn't. And he was trying to pass, and, because that's kind of how he is. He's a pass first person, period, point blank. I need him to get that selfishness. And I saw it kind of in the fourth quarter, in that second half, Matt, because that shot he took, what as you call it, the Scottie Pippen or the Tim Duncan shot, whichever one you want to go with, when he drove and he put it off the backboard, was vicious.
That was sexy.
Yeah. It was very attractive. And it was wonderful to see that. And they needed that. It was a needed bucket and a needed shot. The 3-pointers that he hit were needed. And you saw I think he goes in that category, Matt, with guys who are kind of out of sync. You know what I'm saying? And with their game and like that, and just trying to find out because as smooth as it looked in preseason, you're still trying to find out where guys like it. You know what I mean? And how they want to do it. But with him, he's got to get out of that overpassing, man. I know he's passed first, which is beautiful, but when you get to that bucket and nobody is there and you're 6'6", you know what I mean? I need you to go ahead and lay that in and not think about that assist so hard. So you saw him kind of get a little more aggressive in the fourth, but that would be like a minor concern for me because those led to too many of the turnovers that he had because he could have easily just had maybe one or two and then kind of forced the other turnovers upon himself because he was trying to make a play.
Right. And so, his shot splits on the night end up being 2 of 6 behind the 3-point line, 5 of 12 overall. So half of his attempts inside the arc, half outside. I don't mind that split when it comes to Lonzo's, shot chart on any given night. I think that could be okay. Maybe on some nights instead of 2 of 6, he hits 3 or 4 of 6. Wouldn't that be lovely? But I'm also not that concerned yet as far as just one game and the way that we saw him run that offense, because guess what? He finished the night with 4 assists. If any of his 4 teammates in that starting 5 could hit a shot to save their life in the first quarter, when the Bulls put up 14 points, maybe we're talking about a night where Lonzo actually had 7 or 8 assists. So, it's all relative in that regard. I just thought it was interesting that, other than a couple of transition opportunities, he didn't necessarily look to be running things on the offensive end. But again, doesn't necessarily have to be that way. It's just what we saw. But credit to him, not only, as I mentioned, his defense, but for the work he did on the boards last night. You and I talked yesterday about how important it's going to be for the wings and the forwards on this team and even some of the guards to chip in rebounding because this is an undersized team. Vooch did his part. He had 15 boards last night. DeRozan, Lonzo, and Zach combined for 20 more rebounds. That's the kind of stuff you need to see from your guards and your wings chipping in on the glass, especially when you're dealing, with being an undersized team. And like as we said, Billy Donovan decided to go to Alizé instead of Tony Bradley, which Tony Bradley might be 3 or 4 inches taller than Alizé Johnson, but put each of them in a game for the same number of minutes, and Alizé's coming out with 4x the amount of rebounds as Tony Bradley. I guarantee it.
That's so wild. And also I wanted to say this in the first segment, Matt, but real quickly, I want to give Matt Peck his props because once again, something happened that he said would happen in this game. And if you listen to the show, he talked about this. He talked about Vooch being the trailer on the 3-point shot and how important that would be. And what did you see when he hit that 3 that Zach LaVine gave him the ball and the Bulls finally took a lead? Who was it he passed it to? It was Vucevic trailing, and he hit it top of the key, cash money. That was Matt Peck who said that was going to be a thing, and y'all saw it be a thing and how important it was in that game. Beautiful.
Yeah. Vooch continues to struggle, with his shots as we saw him in preseason. He was 1 of 4 from behind the 3-point line last night, just 7 of 21 overall. This is just a weird little slump that Vooch is in. And when he starts making his bunny looks, when DeMar knocks down more of those mid-range looks, DeMar and Vooch both had bad shooting nights last night. But hey, here's the important thing. The Bulls played quality team defense for enough of those 48 minutes, and Zach LaVine was Zach LaVine, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter. Vooch and DeMar both had off-night shooting, and the Bulls come out victorious regardless. That's the kind of stuff you're going to need to see for this team to make a big jump as far as their win-loss record this season. Win the ugly games, too. The Bulls never won the ugly games last season. They won an ugly one to kick off this new season. That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Bulls. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always. If you aren't already, subscribe to us on that YouTube channel, Locked On Bulls, and hit us up on social media. On Twitter, we're at Bulls_Peck. BAL, BAWL Sports, and Locked On Bulls. Hit us up on that text and voicemail line 331-979-1369. Maybe we'll do some mailbag to send y'all into the weekend for tomorrow's episode. Who knows? Stick around to find out. For Dave, I'm Matt. Until next time, Bulls Nation, we're 1-0. See Red, be good. Peace out.